important. But I didn't feel like there was a lot. I don't know. I could be wrong.
We will see. Check out the episode pod over. I would have written notes, but I usually don't follow my notes, so this is one of those things where I don't bother.
I took some notes. Do you have a Gmail account? And do I know it already anyway?
I mean, I have 2 Gmail accounts. Why?
I was going to share you with my Google Doc where I've been keeping my notes.
That's fine. I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I don't need to like. I mean, I like your thoughts to be your thoughts, and my thoughts not being bounced off of your thoughts. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, we are back for another week of the Anime4All podcast season 2. We are now reviewing the recent episode of My Hero Academia, episode 103, titled "One Thing at a Time." Last week we reviewed strictly just Shaman King because No My Hero was airing, and we need to get caught up on Shaman King, which we're still pretty far back on that, but we'll get around to pushing forward with that. I guess while I'm here, real quick, as we normally do at the beginning of these, let's go check the stats on the podcast and see if we're doing better or we're still doing. We're still like, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess edging out. I guess that's the way to put it.
Bush League?
What?
Bush League?
What does that mean?
Small time.
I guess that works.
I don't know what the literal translation is, but every time I've heard it, it means like small time. I'm looking it up.
Oh man, well we lost a follower.
Bush League either means minor league of a professional sport like baseball, or not of the highest quality or sophistication, or second rate. So minor league. We lost a follower.
Yeah, we went down a follower. We were at 3, now we're at 2.
Was it that follower from Germany? Because I really liked them.
I mean, no, there's somebody in Germany. I think in Frankfurt. Yeah, Frankfurt. There's also somebody in Belgium too. So, Belgium. Huh.
Belgium?
Belgium, or whatever it is.
Belgium?
Oh, there's somebody in Los Angeles. Oh, well, near Los Angeles. Ontario? What? Okay, got questions. Okay, well, yeah, well, we lost a follower, so I'm sorry for whatever reason that you left if you are hearing this. We'd like you to come back, but I'm not gonna force anything. Okay, I'm gonna move on. This is getting awkward.
It's probably all that time I spent blowing my nose on the podcast.
Which episode?
You know. That's not being picked up on my microphone, is it?
It's being picked up.
Oh.
Okay, I guess that gets done. We're gonna. I guess
Is that the end of the podcast?
Huh?
Is that the end of the podcast?
No. We just started.
We should just make a podcast that's you updating how many followers you have, and then the podcast ends.
Do you think that much? That is too much. Even as a joke, that's too much. I'm already having a hard time keeping up a consistent. I'm already being serious. I already have a hard time keeping this podcast going up consistently every week. So like I'm not even as a joke. And well, I mean, never say never, but I'm not gonna. Okay, but with this, we're gonna hit with the first episode. Well, the first episode back from My Hero that we've had in a while for a week. We cue back in with Hawks, who is now checking in with the people that he is betraying. Well, not betraying, well, being a double agent for, which is cool. Uh, we were checking in with them here, seeing what's happening. I think what this is, we're seeing now in present time, uh, where we are with Hawks. I guess with his being a double agent thing, because we see a round table of people that we clearly can't see for I guess reasons. Well, we can see we can see well, correction. There's some people we can't see, but we can definitely tell Dobby, Toga, Twice, Spinner, and I don't know why I couldn't see him here, but he's there. Compress Man.
Himiko too. They show you Mr. Compress.
I said Toga.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, but you can't see Compress earlier when they're spread when you see like the entire table.
You can see part of his shirt, but
I couldn't see him.
Hawks is in the way, but you can see part of his shirt, kind of like in the corner at 33 seconds.
Well, I couldn't see him. I mean, I know he's there, but I couldn't see him. I probably wasn't looking all that hard. I didn't even know he was there until my second watch. I literally didn't know he was there. They're talking about like.
I was hoping he would say something, or I think he says like one thing, but like it's just so minor. I didn't realize he was there, and he's one of my favorite enemies until the second watch either.
He probably isn't. He probably doesn't say anything. Cause I don't think he does. I think it's mostly Twice that's saying something. Then again, there is that deeper voice that I thought was Twice later on that could have been him. I thought it was Twice his other personality speaking, but maybe it could have been him.
It could have been Twice, but I think there was one scene where they focused on him. Let me check, because it was around 114 that they had him there in like highlight. But you can see them all to some extent. You know, there's two guys with a tie. You know, there's the leader guy, who might be. What is his name? Begins with a D.
I feel like that is Twice.
No, that's not Twice. He's got a striped shirt on.
No, I'm talking about the voice.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm not talking about the voice right now. I'm saying that you can see almost everybody. So at 116, you can see him. And I think you're right. I don't think he says anything. But it's a bummer because I want to get an update on how he's doing.
He seems to be doing fine. I mean, he wouldn't be here part of this operation if he wasn't. That's the other thing. I highly doubt that Tomura would let him do anything if he wasn't okay with it, considering he is like the old man of the group anyway. It's surprising because he doesn't look all that old when he takes his mask off, but whatever. That must be in his 40s or something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool though. Like it's interesting to see so many of them because they don't seem. It seems like the guy in the striped shirt is leading this, but there's so many members of the League of Villain there that you would think that they were like it was a League of Villain group. But I don't know why one of the main people. Well, I mean, I do know why one of the main people because they're all kind of lower. None of them are like great leaders really, so I can see that. But I don't know why they're picking like this random seeming guy to be their leader.
I think what it is just that this is a group of people. I mean, they've already mentioned Destro's name a second time, and I'm starting to think that maybe Destro is just the name of something that they're throwing about because they don't like they want to keep suspicion off of them anyway. That's what I believe this is really is that they're trying to keep this.
The pointy nose striped shirt guy is probably Destro though because he's in the closing credits too.
But I don't think his name, because he wouldn't be referring to himself in the third person.
He's not really referring to him in the first person. When he's talking to Hawks, he says, "You're the one of the few that really gets it," and he seems proud of that, like in kind of a baneful way, like maybe he wrote the thing and he's excited that the guy's promoting it because it did sort of like endear Hawks to the guy. So it'd be a good strategy for Hawks if he's trying to get into their circle of trust if he did something that kind of sucked up. But also the way that he's so happy that Hawks is one of the few that gets it, like, and he's like making such a big deal out of that. It seems unlikely that he would care that much unless he had a personal investment in it, and the most obvious personal investment would be if he wrote it, and then that would mean that maybe this season he was like the main enemy of this season, which would make sense because they've been building up to this for a few episodes.
I don't think he's Destro, because he uses the word Destro. He doesn't say my agenda.
But he doesn't say it in a way that illuminates him as being Destro either.
But he said, here's the thing: even if he were just using his name, he'd be a lot more like forthcoming because everybody else doesn't care if he's Destro or not. He's trying to blow up. He's trying to blow the thing. To me, if you're using the name in the third person, you're not referring to yourself. Thinking there are people who do speak in the third person, but it doesn't seem like he's the type of guy that speaks in the third person.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. It's possible it's not. It's just interesting that it was so important to him. This book.
Maybe he's in bed with Destro. I don't know. I still don't think Destro's a real person. If at this point, it could just be some name that they're throwing about as a part of our liberation because this is what this is.
It could be, but it's a book, so somebody wrote it.
He could have probably written it. But, I mean, maybe his pen name is Destro. I don't know. I didn't think he was that proud of it, but then again, looking back on it, he didn't seem kind of happy that he was because he's using Hawks as a billboard to.
It was like half of his conversation with Hawks was about the book and not about anything else, and how it was gonna like lead the people up and everything. So.
I mean, whatever's in that book, he's definitely happy about it because it sounds like it's gonna really stir up an uprising. But I guess with that, we'll still.
It's extremely important, seeming because I don't know. We've just seen an awful lot of that book now. It's been central, like, to the secret code, but it's also been.
Well, I mean, we can't read it. It's in Japanese. I mean, I wish they would translate it, but nope, they're not going to do that.
Well, no.
And it takes too long to learn to read kanji or whatever is in that book, because I don't know if it could be a specific type of Japanese handwriting that that there's so much of it. It's ridiculous. I'm glad that they had Endeavor pick out words that they translated because I was looking around trying to figure out, like, are they going to translate this? Sometimes in anime they have an entire wall of text that you can pause to read, and I was waiting to see if they were going to do that, but apparently they didn't want to do that, which upsets me greatly because I want to see what's in this book.
Yeah.
But I guess moving on, while we're still in the room with everybody, we've already kind of glossed over Compressed Man. Toga and twice, Dabi brings up a picture that he's seen on the internet because someone took a picture of Hawks swooping in and saving the day. Dabi is saying that they don't look that impressive. Because later we see Hawks saying that he's glad that Dabi doesn't seem to be concerned with them. But I don't know if I was watching somebody else's reaction to this, and they brought up an interesting point that Dabi could just be playing Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he doesn't. Maybe he does see that they're. Because I mean, if the theory is that Dabi is the missing Todoroki kid, he could just be playing it up so he can like get some alone time with Shota for whatever reason or whatever his main goal is. Because those two have not met, huh?
You're saying the main goal of Hawks?
No, the main goal of Dabi.
I got you. Okay.
The main goal of Dabi might be, I don't know. He seems to have his goals seems to be centered around, for whatever reason, at least before now, a lot of his interactions have been with Endeavor, and I think he's only the fake Dabi is the only person that's actually met up with Todoroki, with Shoto. The fake Dabi is the only one who's actually met up with him. So like, there's been absolutely. It's actually kind of funny that in every instance that Dabi should have been at least face to face with Shoto, he's never been face to face with him. in every instance, the situation where he could have been face to face with him. He's never interacted with him. And it's like it's almost purposeful at this point that they're not having him interact with him. And then the picture, he's just like, it feels like to me, he's like, he could be looking at everybody in that picture, but he also could be looking at Shoto down there. Who knows? But I guess it's like interesting that he doesn't find them impressive. They haven't shown any real growth, but Hawks' plan was to make sure that they couldn't show off, so that way they couldn't be prepared for what's coming up. So it's kind of funny that Hawks was there just to prevent them from showing off.
Why do you think that Hawks is there just to prevent them showing? What do you mean Hawks is there just to prevent them from showing off?
From the way Hawks talked about how he was glad that they're underestimating him, it sounds like he's also putting a gambit on these three, or at least the young heroes. But it seems like he's putting more of a gambit on Todoroki, Shoto, Deku, and Bakugo, because he was there preventing them from being able to save that guy. And by showing off, he even mentions that if he hadn't been there, they would have been totally fine themselves. It seems like to me that picture, he probably wasn't thinking that they were going to have a picture of them, but at the same time, he's glad that he was able to prevent them from actually doing something, because if they were able to do something, they would probably have Dabi or whoever is watching them on high alert. But since they don't think they're a threat, they won't be on high alert.
That's going to be a tough thing to maintain while they're with a high-profile hero that all eyes are on, though. Especially.
Well, I don't think he's intending to keep it that way. I just think he just did that one time because like they probably won't be concerned with them after that. They probably won't even be tailing them. If they had actually shown any promise, they probably would have been tailing them. Now, as I said before, somebody brought up that Dabi could just be playing the fool, and he doesn't truly think that. Who knows?
I mean, Himiko's definitely keeping an eye on him when she can.
Well, she's keeping an eye on Deku, and she's not keeping an eye on the upper half. Moving on.
Yeah, I get what you mean. But I don't know. I think so. Here's the thing: when they see the picture of him there, their answer is when they see him, they don't say, "Isn't that interesting?" or something like that. They say, "What a coincidence," which means that sounds like they have more significance attached to Midoriya specifically, who we know was one of the targeted heroes from their raid of the training camp. So it made me wonder why they said what a coincidence, like why that was their words of choice for that. It's just sort of like an unusual choice of words, and I know that there's translation in play and stuff like that, but I was curious why their choice of words.
I mean, I think Twice was just saying, "Oh, it's those guys." That's all Twice said, and I hate to say you can't take Twice's words. You can only take Twice's words with a grain of salt, but you kind of almost have to take Twice's words as a grain of salt because he's just a Deadpool. As you eloquently put, he's just a Deadpool ripoff. And I'm sad by that because I really kind of enjoy Twice, but as you eloquently has put, Twice, and they've already showed that his gimmick is that he's got multiple personalities in his body anyway. Yeah. I mean, then again, like I said before, I mean, you kind of have a point, but at the same time, it's Twice. If it had been anybody else but Twice, I'd probably take that with more grain of salt. Because, like...
Twice is deep in this thing, you know, and, like, you can't write him off. Like, it's really easy to take some of these characters not seriously. Like, Spinner always struck me as kind of small time, but here he is, you know what I mean? In
I thought Spinner was in jail, though.
Yeah, well, he's here. So
he shouldn't be, though.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I feel like he shouldn't be here unless I was mistaken. I thought he was captured. Especially during that raid. I thought they captured this guy.
I mean, what you're talking about, but I can't remember if he got captured or not.
Spinner, the green scaly dude, the guy with the blades who followed stand. I was certain that they captured him. I was certain.
If they captured him, then that guy's probably the one that can duplicate people, right?
No, because he would have there would be no point to keep up the ruse.
There would. I don't know.
No, there wouldn't.
I see what you mean, but that's the only other possibility is the guy that can make duplicates. I forget which one he is, but he's in the league. He
Twice.
would be the only person that could be there if it wasn't Spinner.
twice splits himself. I think he can change the form of the copy is able to. But so there's no point to keeping up the ruse. There's really no point. Because like at that point, like I mean, they're gonna find out that 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 if it was a copy, that like what they got was a but they're gonna find out if it wasn't him. They're gonna find out that they caught a copy. There was no point, especially
Unless
since like I mean like
unless they needed to think that Spinner was there because he was up to something else.
I don't know what else Spinner can freaking do because I think all he has the ability is to manipulate swords. Because I
Well,
think that's all he's.
if this group is working with the League but isn't the League themselves, just like the last story arc where they were like allied with somebody but they were betraying them in the end. If their goal here is to take down this organization or take over this organization, then Spinner could be elsewhere in the building doing something that he shouldn't be doing while they think he's there. But that still doesn't make sense because Spinner would be in jail. So I can only think that Spinner's not in jail.
Well, he's clearly not in jail here. The only other thing I could think this means is that maybe I mean at this point everybody in that room, well, except for like the kids that are a part of the villains, the major villains, uh, they're all in suits, meaning they have money because these are well kept suits. They have money. They must be a part of the underworld because we can't see them fully anyway. They're purposely put in shadows so we can't see their faces.
I will say that I just looked in the My Hero Academia wiki, and I don't want to know anything about him, but I checked the word arrested, and it doesn't. It appears once, and it's not referencing him. So the wiki doesn't say straight out that he's arrested. Without reading it to like,
I was certain they captured him. I don't. I mean, I know they captured the chief dude, but I'm pretty sure they captured him too.
It doesn't say that he's arrested. It says status alive. It doesn't say status arrested. And I know that they say status arrested when they've been arrested.
That's me. Like I know, because he was there, and I'm pretty sure he. Okay, let me just look this up. This is gonna bug me until I figure the heck what's going on here. Because I was certain. No, I could. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's the way that it comes down to it. But I was almost certain he was one of the. Because like I know they beat him up really badly.
Muscular Mustard, and Mr. Compress were arrested, which is weird because Compress is there. And then
The Compress can get out because he could just turn. He could just like shrink himself. They probably.
Yeah, Magni was killed, and it
We
doesn't
know
even
that.
say. And well, I just saw a spoiler, so I'm going to stop looking, and I'm not going to tell you what the spoiler says. But that's what I'm trying to avoid.
It's only do it twice.
Yeah.
I unfortunately I already kind of known about that for a while, all because Google likes to like since it knows what I'm watching or looking at, it decides to throw things at me. I'm already unfortunately aware of. I'm not gonna say it here, but
you shouldn't
I'm
have
already.
given as much as you had because of podcast people don't want to be spoiled.
No, I didn't say. I mean, I didn't say what's happening. I already kind of know thanks to Google following.
Yeah.
That's what I say. That's what I say. That's why I always complain about Google. Is like it knows what I'm doing and it just likes to throw things at me.
Yeah.
And that's also something that I'm almost 100% certain I don't know the context of, and I kind of want to keep myself out of the context of it because I keep seeing it everywhere. Thank you, YouTube, as well. Thank you very much. Um. Okay, I don't. It doesn't say arrested. He's alive, all right, but I just thought he was arrested.
It looks like
Maybe something happened to him, and I just misunderstood that he was arrested.
Maybe.
Maybe he did get away. I guess I don't know. I just don't remember him getting away. I really don't. I guess coming off that topic. I guess we're still like with Hawks dealing with Hawks now. Hawks got released, quote unquote, from the meeting with those guys, and he's apparently found out an extra. We found out an extra ability with his fierce wings. Each feather apparently not only can he control them when he's not attached to them, he can also use to listen. He can also use it to like to bug an area or a room to listen in to what's happening in there. I thought that was kind of cool. That kind of gave his quirk a little bit more of a stealth operation to it.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome.
But kind of makes it's kind of weird that I wonder how many people know about this part of his ability. Because like that's kind of that part of his ability would be completely useless if people knew what he could do with it. Makes you kind of wonder. I wonder if the villains know about this. But yeah, he finds out that apparently that well from Himiko that they're planning to set up a not a coup but a big riot and blow up a major city. Well, Tomura is going to do it apparently, and I don't know how Tomura is planning to do that, but I'm guessing confirmation that that was Tomura in the very first episode of season 5. Wait, no, the very first episode of this arc starting. We saw a white-haired kid laughing in a demolished city naked. Um, I was under the impression that it was Tomura, but I wasn't certain. But I think we got confirmation that apparently that must be Tomura, meaning that apparently he must complete what he does. I also heard from the grapevine too that apparently people out there refer to this arc affectionately My Villain Academia. Um, so something's gonna happen, and it's the main focus is gonna be with the villains apparently this time around, from what I can tell, at least from what I'm hearing. So we'll find out whatever that means. I don't know if there's anything else to deduce from this scene. I mean, he's also going through his mind about what's happening. As I can tell from here, it looks like he's very serious about trying to help the heroes out. So he isn't the spy that I thought he was. Well, not the the traitor that we've been trying to figure out for since season 2. I think yeah, for season 2. We don't still don't know who the spy is or who the traitor is, but we know he can't be it because he's he's double teaming people. He's working for the hero organization, but also working for the villains. While trying to get information for the hero society. It's like he's too deep in to be the traitor that I thought he was supposed to be. Um, let's just skip this intro here. Then we cut to Endeavor. We come back to Endeavor piecing together the hidden message inside the book that Hawks gave him.
The complete message is Meta Liberation War. They number over 100,000 in 4 months to action. Before that, I'll send a signal. In case of failure, more manpower.
This gets is intriguing. I'm actually glad you wrote that down because I certainly didn't. I'm actually glad you wrote that down. But based on that statement, we can tell that Hawks is wanting Endeavor. We also learn later on throughout the process of this scene playing out, with Hawks trying to infiltrate the villains like secret hideout, not being able to walk around by himself, which shows that they don't trust him, which makes sense. But we found out that the main reason for the well, we already knew this, but they're pieced together now. The main reason for this internship is to make sure that the would-be heroes would have enough experience to deal with an actual villain outbreak.
Which is, what's interesting is that when they did that montage where they showed the students that like were valuable, they showed both class 1A and 1B. So they were counting 1B as like valuable and important for this as well. So and that makes sense because we just had a mini arc where we got to explore them. So you know what I mean? They're going to be using Universe 6 and 7 in this. I mean, classes 1A and 1B in this.
I hate that you did Dragon Ball Z. What did you? Why? How dare you, sir?
Oh, come on. Like, they're not learning Ultra Instinct right now?
No, I mean, Deku's probably the closest, but no, I'm not going to drop down this rabbit hole. How dare you?
Parallel thinking and being able to do things without thinking about them is not Ultra Instinct at all. You're right.
It's perpetual thinking. It's not like having your body react on its own.
Thinking about things more than once at a time and being able to do things without thinking about them is definitely not Ultra Instinct.
That's your body moving. Ultra Instinct is your body moving on its own without you interfering.
Okay.
Whatever. What was I going to say before you decided to throw a horseshoe in my direction with Dragon Ball Z on it? I literally forgot. I guess I'll go off when I'm watching here. We see Endeavor closing the book, and we see a flashback of the organization that's with Hawks coming to Endeavor, saying that please train up these interns that are going to be training with you. And I guess Endeavor makes his mind up at this point that he's going to train them all. But we see Burning, his one of his sidekicks. We cut to Burning, and she's like, I guess since Endeavor only wants to be with Shoto, you're gonna be with us. Which is it's really funny how similar at least Burning is to Bakugo in just just like on the outward appearance anyway. Like she seems to be loud just like he is.
Yeah.
But then we have Endeavor come out of his study, which he was in there by himself.
Can we back up for a second here?
No, what do you want to do?
I have a really strong case to make for the fact that they think that these, at least the commission thinks that these are going to be Nomus. First of all, we found out that there are multiple locations, right? The villains might be headquartered in one place, but there's multiple other locations.
I'm gonna let you continue, but at the same time, Nomus can't read. Who are they sending these books out to? Nomus, we already know Nomus can't read.
I get what you're saying, but listen. So Nomus can't read, but maybe they do need people to have as initiates, right? Like Nomus were once people, we know that. So they need a large number of people that they can recruit for one reason or another, probably to steal quirks from them, probably to convert them into Nomus. So that's one thing. Like as soon as they get a recruit, they don't need to work on them very much. They just turn them into a Nomu. They have all these locations spread everywhere, which could be Nomu factories. They need more manpower, right? So who do they focus on? The three heroes that they focus on, yes, it's very easy to assume that those three heroes are the ones with the most potential, but we know that there's people in the upper classes that have at least as much or not, if not more potential, that are also favorites of some of the major heroes, like Eraserhead, and stuff like that. And, like Sun Eater and things like that, who are also huge potential and deserve, like, the top hero too. But the three they focused on, two of them had fire quirks, and we know that it's important to burn the regenerative Nomus, and he's specifically going to be teaching them his fire abilities to help them with that. So we know that those are key to fighting Nomus, and the other person has All Might's former quirk, and All Might was the first line of defense against Nomus. So the people that are most capable of beating a Nomu with their quirks are the three that they picked to be the ones that are going to be trained specially.
I mean, I don't know if no, this is not even on the Nomu thing. I'm just like I don't know. I mean, I took it as they're specifically like talking to Endeavor about the people he's going to train. There's no way that the lady would have known. Then again, I could be wrong, but there's no way that lady could have known that Shoto. Well, maybe Shoto. I'll leave Shoto at this. There's no way she would know that Deku or Bakugo would go to Endeavor. So I don't like. I feel like she was being a blanket statement. It says whoever ends up under your wing, please train them. It also seemed like to me she was begging Endeavor to take somebody on in an internship because maybe Endeavor wasn't intending to at all. But then again, who knows? I mean, he was trying to get Todoroki to he was trying to get his son to take his invitation, and he finally got it to. But
I know it seems like a coincidence, but it also seems very convenient. Even if that's not the case, these are the three people the plot need to have this training because they can burn away the regeneration, and they have the powerhouse to punch these things out.
I mean, who's to say that Deku doesn't have the ability to burn? We don't know what the next quirk that's going to manifest is going to come out.
Yeah, it just seems like I know what you mean. The next quirk could be anything, and fire quirks are like a dime a dozen.
I just here's the thing. I understand.
Your grandfather has a fire quirk. I get it. It's
no,
like
that
after super strength, it's like the most common superpower in the entire world. Super strength, flight, and then fire. Those are like the three most common.
Well, so I understand that where you're coming from with the Nomu thing, but I really like. Part of me doesn't want it to be because like I want to see a civil war happen, and because everybody 85%, I forgot the exact number because they kept on saying it. It was like is 85% of the people in this world have like have abilities. We already know that it's illegal to use your powers anyway, but that won't matter in a civil war. Like laws get thrown out anyway when there's an uprising, and the whole book thing. If it was Nomus, they wouldn't need to like You know, because like even if you were to take recruits, they're gonna lose their ability to think. All that knowledge that they had isn't gonna matter unless you're like that Nomu that could think. But who knows how
Did,
many of them they got? Because it seemed like that
did they
with that
need them
one
to
there was a
think?
flaw with him because he just wanted to fight people who were strong. He didn't care about anything else. There was a flaw with that guy. But it's like
Did they
there's no
really?
way to control a Nomu to get it to deal. I mean, unless I don't even know what the deal is with sending in a Nomu with somebody. But like I feel like there's no point to sending out a message in a book to have an uprising if all you're going to do is throw a bunch of brain dead, super strong zombies out there.
Well, maybe they don't all have to be zombies, but I'm sure that the powerhouse of this, the way that they're going to take out the heroes, is not going to be to have a league that's hundreds of thousands strong, like they said. It's going to be a league that has some good grunt to it that can just take out a bunch of heroes. And we've seen that Nomus are pretty rough. Like they took out the number 3 hero, was it? Best Genist? Um, or did Best Genist lose to somebody else? Well, anyway, it was a good
Best
brawl.
Jeanist lost to 1 for All. He stabbed him.
It was a good brawl, and they did mention that Endeavor was like critical to winning that fight. So if there's more than Endeavor can burn, which would eventually happen because all quirks have limits. We haven't seen Endeavor's limits, but we know there's a limit.
We've seen
Then
close to his limit.
we've seen close to his limit. We've seen him go all out, but we've never seen like what happens to him when his quirk starts running out.
I mean, he already. I mean, I hate to be that devil's advocate here, but I think he stated, and it's one of the reasons why it forced him to be a bad father. um, is that he overheats. Shut it, Jock. He overheats. He can't maintain his temperature. His blood boils. He like essentially he becomes really tired. He's actually stated this. It's one of the reasons why he did what he did because he didn't have a way to manage. I mean, we can make an argument all day long that there's ways that he could have managed to maintain his body temperature. He just didn't. He just didn't want to. But like, he couldn't. He couldn't maintain his body temperature because it get too hot. It's one of the reasons why like Todoroki manages the hot and cold of his body with the other half of his ability, so that way he doesn't overheat or get too cold. But he stated what his limit is. We haven't seen that in action, but he has stated it. We have heard him say it. It's that we just hadn't seen it happen. The closest we've seen is when he fought that Nomu high end. Like I said before, I mean, what's the point of the book if all they're gonna do is throw a bunch of hoax at people? There's just no point of
I
the
just
book.
think that it draws people in, and we don't know. Like the Nomus have been flooded with so many quirks that the Nomus have been flooded with so many quirks that they've lost their minds. It's not necessarily inherent to a Nomu to we don't know that it would have so many quirks, but they could also be
They've already,
keeping the more talented ones as members of their league. They could
they've
be trying.
already said that the Nomus become zombies when they put so many quirks in them. They can't handle like the human body is specifically made to not handle more than one ability.
So there could be more to this, but they could be recruiting people. But I think with a critical mass that big and doing it without the heroes finding out, they're gonna need some. They're gonna need some things that are definitely not going to talk, and I think no moves are part of that formula.
I can see them maybe putting in like 10 Nomus, but I still feel like the point of the book is to make an uprising of people. Now, like, and I know that like people aren't gonna be regular people are not gonna be a huge detriment to the heroes, but I'm pretty sure there'll be a couple people among. We saw that dude who
But
we don't
that's
even know
not.
where he came from. The guy with the glass ability,
They
like
could
I
take
mean,
the cream of
he came out
they
of nowhere and he was dangerous.
they could take the cream of the crop and they could use that if they still have a way to get that quirk enhancement, they could enhance the quirks of the cream of the crop and bring them in, and then they could be taking the other ones and that aren't so valuable and turning them into nomus. It could just be a blend or something like that. I just think that you don't hide 100,000 thinking people. That word gets out when there's 100,000 people,
Well,
no
I
matter
mean,
how
they
fantastic
don't. You don't know who. You don't. I mean, there's like a million or some odd people on planet or a billion. Sorry, a billion plus people on the planet. Like 100,000 is not that big of a group. Like you could probably pull that from like a country, probably the size of Tokyo or wherever, like wherever in Asia, My Hero takes place. But
this is also a world with quirks, and surely somebody like the detective guy or something like that is going to have a quirk that helps them figure out or just accidentally find out that something's up. So it's really hard to think that in a world where random people have random superpowers, that like that's also not an issue.
Hawks is working with an organization that sent him into the thing. They are aware. They just don't know who it's going to be, and you can't. There's no way to find out who in the world's going to snap because they've already said, they've already shown. There's already an issue amongst people's feelings. Tensions are high. Endeavor can only do so much to quell the people's concerns. There's going to be random people that are going to run about and like cause havoc. I mean, that dude during like the early on in the season, the guy with the carbonation ability, the guy was a salary man. At least I'm gonna say what he said. He had a day job, and he spent an entire year trying to like just figure out the perfect time to rob people. We are seeing random people just out of nowhere turn evil. Well, not turn evil, become criminals. Like that's why I'm very more on the side of like it's got to be an uprising of people. Now they don't have to be all that dangerous, but if you throw enough people on a group of heroes, there's gonna be enough to slow them down. Now, if you want to do some actual damage, yeah, send in a couple of Nomus because they're that's what they're there for. They're meant to do a lot of damage. That's all they're
Is
meant
that
to do.
is that
But
why All Might was such a like a target, because he was borderline like a religious figure, and they didn't want that like counter example like out there like being something these people could hold on to.
I mean, they made the Nomu specifically to tackle All Might. Well, he's not needed anymore. They're not
It was
needed anymore because
easy to
All
believe
Might's
it was
dead.
it was easy to believe that it was a combination of a personal threat. I mean, a personal vendetta, and also the fact that he was just a big threat because he was the biggest superhero. But if he again and again in this series they emphasize what a symbol he is. So if their focus was not so much that he was a big threat because he can punch hard, but that he represented something and that they were trying to represent something else, then I could see that being a reason that they would have a whole plan around taking specifically All Might down, which they did. It was definitely a plan to specifically
I mean,
take.
Shigaraki said that he wanted to whittle away the foundation that people had in Heroes. He did that. That's what I'm saying. I feel like to me, at least from all of this right now, no moves. Yes, don't get me wrong. No, there are going to be some no moves because why the heck not? They made these monsters. They're not gonna have them sitting in the tub in a vat, sitting there like knitting a sweater or like saying yes, yes, create more. There's
You think you're so funny right now.
I know I'm funny. That no, but like I'm sitting there like I find it difficult. Like if the book, this is my hang up. If the book wasn't a part of this, sure, no moves. Give me no moves all day, but you can't persuade a bunch of mindless drones to do anything. You just can't, and that's what no moves are, mindless drones. You're not gonna. I mean, unless they found a way to input data into their mush brains, which I don't think is possible, considering that they lose themselves when they gain more than one quirk. Like
Yeah.
to me the book seems to be the center point, and they're trying to sow distrust amongst heroes because that was the whole plan since season one. They wanted to cut. No, All Might was the first pillar they needed to get rid of. The moment that he dropped, everybody started losing faith in the hero organization, and it's been happening season after season. We've seen people saying like people were panicking when All Might retired, saying who's gonna protect us now. Like it took one kid who they call the Look Boy to say that who's a fan who's the only fan of all Endeavor right now, who says like he's trying to protect us. Why are you talking about we've lost hope when the number two who became number one is not, they're trying to protect us? And Endeavor's trying to keep whatever whatever like is left of All Might's legacy. Like he is really trying to keep whatever is left of All Might's legacy. And it's
I
he's doing
forget
the
who it
best
is.
he can.
I forget who it is. It might have been Gran Torino that even went as far as to say, got like wonder if All Might had in the long run done a little more harm than good by putting so much stock in him as far as like being the hero that everybody can trust.
Did he say
I
that?
think it was I think it was Gran Torino, but definitely somebody said it. it might have been the mouse character or whatever, but like somebody said at one point, like they just sort of in passing was like, sometimes I wonder if that was really good in the long run for him
I
to
know
do
one
that.
person that said it though. Me, the last several podcast episodes.
It wasn't just you though; it was one of the characters in the show.
I mean, I really didn't know. If anything, I was just trying to play devil's advocate. I didn't know it was actually physically stated in the show. This is
Yeah.
news to me. I didn't know. So, like, I mean, hey, if someone did, geez, I mean, that kind of puts more leverage on. I'm not even gonna give myself credit. It puts more credit towards the idea that All Might was good intentioned, and essentially, the only way to really put All Might when he was active, he was trying to be Jesus Christ. Um, the perfect person, like the person that's gonna save everybody, the one you put your faith in, the one that you believe in all the dang time. The only difference between him and Jesus, though, is that Jesus still died, but like All Might wasn't intending, from what I can tell, at least from what the way he was speaking and the way he was pushing himself, he wasn't intending to retire no time soon. And unfortunately, he was forced to retire early, because of the damage that was done to him prior, thanks to All for One and his prior fight that we never saw. Um, so it's a bunch of things, like, he was trying to be the perfect hero, and like as cool as it was to be the person that everybody can depend on, um, like, he kind of did some damage. I mean, because like the idea that he could be the one that could handle it all depends on him being the person there all the dang time, and he was able to hold it pretty well. I mean, when he was active. But what happens when he retires? I don't think All Might thought that through, and he probably never thought that through, if I'm being honest. Because I mean, when he was a kid, he said he wanted to be the pillar that everybody can trust, and that's well intentioned. I'm not saying All Might was evil. I'm not saying that I think All Might didn't think 100% through what he was doing. Even having his predecessor Nana Shimura not even really bring it up to him either, considering that how he looked to her like a mother figure, or like somebody important in his life. Uh, People talk about her, he goes off the wall. So it's like, it's one of those things, like he definitely held her in high respect. So I'm actually kind of curious. Like, I wonder if Nana ever brought up to him like how big of a goal this is, or like how foolish of an idea this could be in the future, if and when you retire. But
Hmm.
something tells me that All Might intended to retire, or at least he never intended to retire so early. Maybe he had a plan that he never got a chance to institute. Because I think he stated that like him looking for another successor was kind of sudden, like, which is why he took on the job at UA to find a student. So he hadn't been scouting up until the very beginning of the series, and it falling on Deku. But Jesus, we spent a lot of time on that. But I if there's no moves involved in this, I can understand it. But I just don't know. The book seems like, unless there's a two-parter, and maybe this insurrection is going to be a bunch of no moves attacking the world, and then the Civil War is going to happen. Maybe that's the point of the book. I have no idea. Maybe the book isn't intended to be an immediate resolution, but a future consequence. Maybe that's what it. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe you're right. Maybe they are trying to pull a bunch of new ones. But it's like that book is still. I'm still fixated on that book. What's the point of having reading material? No one's gonna read it. Uh, let's go further. Yeah, I will say they definitely did like focus on everybody. Um, but I guess we can start closing down here. Well, not closing down yet, but we now see Endeavor
How do you
talking with Deku. Huh? What?
how do you feel about the fact that Endeavor wasn't involved in this, but the Commission and Hawk seemed to know what was going on?
I think it just kind of speaks to how the world views Endeavor. It hasn't been fixed. I mean, that glass dude literally called him the Antichrist. I mean, like,
Yeah, it's crazy because like yeah, and that's a really good point too. If you're comparing All Might to like a Christ-like figure, and then you're comparing Endeavor to an Antichrist, what a fall we've done with the hero community. But like this infiltration we know has been going on since the first season. Like one of the first episodes is when we first found out about it. we're behind the scenes right now with everything, but like this is long precedented, and nobody's tried to include Endeavor before until Hawks, and now he just has the first ideas of like, wait a minute, the commission must know about this, and Hawks definitely knows about this, and like I don't. And he's not even like particularly surprised or feels betrayed about that. He's just like, okay, I've got to do the right thing now, and I'm going to go train them like they told me to. But you don't see a lot else going on there.
I mean,
And
another
what's
thing
so
too. I mean, well, this, I mean, they're using Hawks because they got Hawks at a very young age. We see an image of Hawks' childhood, and essentially, it's him being recruited immediately because apparently, say his skill set is required, which all because he saved a couple when he was a little kid, and that was back when he had an Endeavor doll, which we and I guess another thing too, Hawks including Endeavor shows that Hawks is probably the other fan that Endeavor does have, but and Hawks values Endeavor's input a lot more than All Might, because I mean even though All Might isn't active, he could have still flew to All Might, but he didn't. He flew right to Endeavor.
mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that shows like how Hawks views Endeavor, but how the world views Endeavor. And I guess another thing too is like the world doesn't know what he did to his family, as far as I know. So I'm actually kind of curious why the people hate him like they do. Something ain't right with that. So I don't know like what he's
You've
done
seen some of his
in the outside
tactics.
world,
You've
but
seen some of his tactics, like leaving fire behind. They were talking about this time to like to scare his opponent, intimidate them, and also close off their escape routes and stuff like that. Like he's an aggressive kind of shitty like person, and this is a fairly fickle people. Like Endeavor's like, I am here, and it's like, yay! You know, and Hawks flies overhead with a cell phone, and they're like, oh, he's got his phone out. Who's he talking to? Does he have a girlfriend? You know, like there's some silly stuff going on here, like with the people. Like the people are
I mean I
painting
get that, but
Endeavor
it's
as
not like because I mean
questionable.
he Endeavor said well before we get to that with Endeavor. He's now preparing to train the three, Shoto, the power trio, Shoto, Bakugo, and Deku. And apparently he's asking them to tell him about
Well,
themselves or what
three
they
of the
wanted.
power, three of the power four. You mean
Who's the fourth? I don't
Froppy?
really include Muriel because he's not active right now.
Froppy.
We'll get to Froppy later. I mean, there's
Dude, they're
nothing.
giving the whole next episode's going to be about Froppy.
Not really. It's gonna be about Uraraka as well. So I
Yeah,
mean,
she's
it's
filler.
not gonna be just about Froppy.
Uraraka's filler, and you know it. Selkie's. It's a Selkie and Froppy episode.
Continue, continue what I was saying. Like they talk about like how he's asking Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto he's asking Deku and Bakugo specifically about what are they here to improve or what they need. Deku, being Deku, goes off on a tangent about like what he's done, what he's improved on, what he wants to improve. He brings up the numbers that Jock hates the most, which is like percentages of how much power he's using.
Mm-hmm. At least in
Uh,
this one, he makes it sound like an approximation. He's like maybe about 20% I need for this. In
he's
the other one,
always
he's
said
like,
about. He's never really 100% known.
he acts like it sometimes.
Like I mean, like we've seen him at 100 whatever percentage that he's when he's had area on his back. The guy was going Super Saiyan, but I mean whatever. Uh, he's Prince Deku blabs on about like what he hasn't done. Like he does. We see an image of like Bakugo in the corner, and at first I thought cause he was bringing out the black lip. I at first thought he was concerned about Deku blabbering about his power. But they say irritated at the top, so I'm guessing he's just more irritated at how fast Deku talks and how much he talks. Um,
Yeah.
and he continues to talk about what he wants to do after Endeavor asks him more questions. And we slowly in the background see Shoto and Bakugo sliding in from the side of Deku. And then like Burning brings up the fact like that was a lot. There is no way I'm gonna understand that. And Endeavor calmly just says, "Okay, so you wanna be able to pull out your full power, but also bring it down when it's convenient for you." And it is like I was, excuse me. Nobody in the history of My Hero has been able to summarize Deku's scatterbrain in one sentence before. Even All Might has a hard time understanding what Deku's talking about, and he's supposed to be his successor. So it's like,
Yeah, but All Might's like not exactly a thinking hero most of the time.
I think he can be a thinking hero when it comes down to it.
he can be a thinking hero, but he's not like essentially a thinking hero.
Well, I mean, besides nobody, anytime Deku starts yada-yadaing about, nobody is there listening to him. Nobody. The guy who's supposed to be a douche canoe actually was listening to him and understood everything he was saying. In that entire, probably like 5-minute introduction that was not necessary.
I'm just saying. I'm saying Endeavor's smart. Just take it. Just accept it.
Moving on, we go to Bakugo, and Bakugo says his Bakugo thing. I like to point out that you brought up that this is Sarah Caesar was made the fanboy. I'm sorry if I like certain characters a little bit more than Deku, but I don't hate Deku by any means. Heck no, I want to see more of this
I did
character.
like Deku.
I
No
don't.
wonder people are unsubscribing from the podcast. You say crap like that.
And Bakugo says that he wants to see what he can't do, which I guess makes sense in a very weird. I mean, he explains saying that up to this
In a
point, his
Bakugo kind of
power has
way.
allowed him to do whatever he wanted to do. He wants to see what he can't do, improve on that, figure what he can't do, and even brings the fact that he's learned that being strong doesn't necessarily mean being physically strong, and he wants to improve, I guess, overall on everything he's able to do right now. Which is showing that which is showing that he is growing. He realizes that he's hit a wall. He doesn't know where to go from here, which kind of shows, I guess, what he's been doing the last couple of seasons. I mean, the last wall he was trying to get over was trying to get the license. So now he got that. I guess the next thing for him to do is figure out what he needs to do next.
Mm-hmm.
Which then we have Endeavor have a moment saying this kid is, and he cuts off. So I'm guessing he was gonna say this kid is like me. So I'm guessing we're gonna see a little bit more of that relationship between him and Endeavor that All Might was trying to tell Bakugo about. Uh, And then Shoto essentially says, "What about me?" Endeavor has that whole, "You want to learn about the Flash Fist, don't you?" Like the Flash Fire Fist, like, and he's like, and he brushes that off, and we see that Todoroki has been doing a little bit of growing too, showing that he says that I've been having a lot of like pointless anger towards you, and it's prevent. I mean, basically saying he had a lot of pointless anger directed at you, and it's preventing me from achieving my goal, which is to be a hero, like the guy who I admired on TV. And this shoots Endeavor through the heart, pretty much saying that I had assumed that he was going to open up to me, but I was foolish to think so. Which I would say, like, as much as I like to be Endeavor's cheerleader, you can't fix the damage that was done over the last 15 years in one day, if you can fix that damage, that is.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
plus, him coming on that hard was obviously a little bit of posturing. He doesn't mean it as clearly as he does because it's contradictory to things he said in the past as well. They even show the things in the past that he said, where he contradicted himself, and Endeavor's like a little bit of confusion over that, but then he just takes it at face value. But I have a
but I mean,
feeling.
what I think here the thing is though is like Endeavor, we see his eyes and they are vastly different because we see a flashback of when he first meets Deku, and those are the eyes of an angry man. That man has not had his Wheaties. Apparently now he's had his Wheaties, and he's now like he's he's come down from that uh that staircase that he was on, arbitrary staircase that he was on earlier.
This is going to
I'm,
sound weird, but he has less to prove now. He's very clearly established as the number one hero without All Might around. There's a big drop off after All Might, and then there's a big drop off after him. Like Hawks is a pretty
I mean,
good fall.
I mean, I hate, I say this every time when it comes down. I mean, I ain't saying talking about, but I say this every time. It's like Endeavor is and I think that's kind of where I start saying that. I mean, I had time to think about this because I've stated how I feel that All Might has created a big problem. Over the course of these podcast episodes, I say that I think All Might's created a huge problem in the dichotomy of the hero world. But the problem isn't really of All Might. It's actually with the heroes that were underneath him, the ones that were supposed to handle all the small jobs. They they essentially weren't doing they weren't doing their job, as I guess the best way to put it. A lot of them were just there to earn money and get in the spotlight. Because we see Mount Lady, she's changed to the point of becoming active now. Because before she was just in it for the money. She even stated it. I mean, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these heroes weren't doing a lot of hero work that we could see, and Endeavor is the only one. And we hear all the time that Endeavor has so many agencies, he has so many sidekicks, I mean, I think in the episode, in the prior episode before we get to his agency, we find out that he has 100 requests a day that his team deals with. And we learn here that apparently, and this answered my question before, because I was curious about how Endeavor knew about that glass dude before he did any real damage, because that was confusing to me. Because like, there's no way he's like All Might could have probably heard that from a mile away and jumped right in front of him and stopped him and like put him into the ground. So I was confused at how in the world he even knew about that, but apparently found out he has an earpiece in his ear, which makes sense. That that
Crime
alerts him.
with earbuds. Oh yeah.
What?
Crime fighting with earbuds. Oh yeah.
I mean, he kind of has to. Like he's already stated that like I mean he like there are two kinds of people in this world, that the ones who are gifted with using their ability and the ones who have to work hard and accumulate all the necessary experience. And he even compares Deku to the people who have to accumulate experience, and it shows where he believes All Might is and how he's always viewed All Might. Um, he apparently views All Might as the only person who just had it from the jump, which makes sense. I mean, he went to school with him. 'Cause I think he went to school with him. I think they're the same age, but like he went to the same school, so it shows like where in the world in his mind where All Might stands compared to him and everybody else. He views everybody. He views the normal heroes as people who have to work hard and gain the experience. All Might didn't. So it shows where he views them in his mind, which kind of interesting in a very little week. We get to see all Endeavor's thinking process, even if it isn't always the best. Um,
We also see with All Might the All Might problem. Like we see the kind of the Batman trap, which is a lot of Batman's villains blame Batman for creating them, and this is probably more the other heroes than All Might, but just that question of like the superheroes, since some of them are grandstanding, since some of them kind of like try to like mooch for free things, some of them are in for it for the fame and the girls and stuff. You know what I mean? And like we see that with Grape, for example, as a silly version of that. But like as they continue to do this, like characters that maybe had potential for good or at least neutrality, like Stain's people, for example, like Spinner. Spinner doesn't strike me as like pure evil. Like Spinner's like working towards like a belief, but he doesn't strike me as someone that's like pure evil. Like I think in a different life, maybe he would have been a neutral character or a good character even. But the world of heroes wasn't something he could believe in. He just needed to believe in something most, I think, to have become a follower of it. And he didn't believe in the heroes. He believed in Stain's message. And he's part of the league, but he's never been a member of the league the way some of the others are. Like you see, Himiko, for example, seems to be in it because she just loves this kind of thing. You know what I mean? But, and some of the other characters are in there because they need somewhere to belong. You know what I mean? Or they're a professional. They consider themselves a professional, like Mr. Compress. Twice, who the hell knows what Twice's motivations are at any given time, including him. But Spinner seems rational, and they make him look sort of like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, which makes me keep thinking of him as a hero. You know what I mean? Like as like the TMNT, like he's kind of like Raphael, a brawler, and you know what I mean. And some of it like kind of leads with his heart, and like I think in a different world, if the good guys had acted a little more like something Spinner had believed in, maybe he would have joined them instead. So it's interesting to think about that because you hear that conundrum with Batman all the time, where they're just like, I wouldn't have even been a villain if it wasn't for you. Like Two-Face, for example. You know.
well, I mean, some of them, yeah. I mean, Batman had a hand in it. It's actually still kind of debated to this day if Batman had a hand in Joker, because there's apparently some origin story where Batman accidentally sent a man who I forgot his name into a vat of laughing gas, and it turned him insane. But I mean, Spider-Man has the same problem. Some of his villains blame him too.
Yeah.
And it's really funny that so many heroes do cause problems trying to be good. And I guess it's one of those things where, like, I mean, if they ever delve into the problem that the All Might pillar has caused by crumbling, maybe we'll finally maybe Stain will come back. It seemed Stain was such an interesting character that we've already stated how much we enjoyed Stain in the arc that he was in. He it made it interesting. We weren't just rooting for Deku and everybody. We were rooting for Stain too at some points throughout that entire thing. I will admit there was some times where I was hoping Stain was going to get away just because I kind of agreed with this view.
Yeah.
Cause like I mean, like Stain wasn't a bad guy either. He just like we saw his backstory. He went to the hero course, found that it wasn't what he thought it was, started protesting. Nobody would listen to him. Essentially, he went rogue and became an anti-hero, kind
Mm-hmm.
of. Because he isn't really even considered a villain, and he's actually considered, I think if I remember correctly on Wikipedia, they call him an antagonist. So he isn't really even considered a big bad, or he's just there causing problems.
And then the guy that Midoriya went up against last
General
didn't
Criminal.
have, yeah, General Criminal. Like he seemed like maybe he could have been a neutral or a good if things had fallen a little bit
There
differently
was
as
the end
well.
scene with him though that they proved. I think they said. I think that they brought up that he could attempt to coup for all that he's done. I guess they made it seem like they were going to give him a second chance. So I mean, there are people that they've made in this world that as I was saying, like I mean, I'm not gonna blame all the way on what's happened to society because he's done what he wanted to do. You cannot fault the man for he's done what he wanted to do. But I believe too like because of the other heroes and the way they're acting, and I guess I never thought about it too because we saw all the heroes before All Might retired. We saw what was happening in that world. We saw
Yeah,
that there were all
brilliantly
kinds of problems.
brilliantly they've been building up to this the whole time. Rivalries between heroes, grandstanding, Mount Ladies crap, like they've been building up to this the whole series, and it's just now like coming out to us a little more obviously, but it's really smart the way they did it.
So I don't know what's gonna be. I don't think they're gonna do it because I mean it's unless it's gonna be part of the major arc of the story in terms of I mean because Shigaraki kind of granted I don't. That's the thing about it is like when we first got introduced to Shigaraki, he came off as a spoiled brat who was just trying to do what he wanted to do and get away with it. But maybe he had some point because we do hear about Shigaraki's backstory and how One for All was there for him, and why he's willing to do anything for him because he was there. He was his All Might, and the weirdest way possibly, just but that he was his All Might. Um, So that's what I'm saying. Is like, I mean, I guess it's like, yeah, it's been a build up. We've seen, I mean, all the heroes. I mean, I think Kamui Woods is different, but we haven't seen that guy since like when he first appeared. I think. No, wait, correction. When he was there during the fight with All for One, we haven't seen him since. We haven't seen the ninja dude either. Uh, the guy who turned into paper, whatever. We haven't seen him. So I mean, I don't really know what they're about. I mean, it seems like they were there trying to do their job and keep up. We had people like Mount Lady who was just there for the fame and the fortune, and she stated this like, and she was not ashamed of it. Though recently she has changed and she's trying to help, which kind of shows the problem that they're having now. Like villains are no longer afraid because All Might was there to prevent them from doing anything.
Yeah, they've been forced to step up and take this more seriously.
But I say like, why weren't they doing that before? It seems kind of stupid to me. Like, that's why I say like All Might kind of created a problem where no one had to depend on anybody else but him. So,
Right.
but you have
I
somebody, you
mean,
had somebody like, huh?
we still saw people get hurt and stuff. Just
I mean, yeah, but I mean, it wasn't as bad. Like, I don't like. I mean, like during All Might's last fight, he definitely did destroy a big portion of Hoshu City. But that was only
yeah,
because he was fighting a guy who was on tier of a god in that universe. So I mean, in the weirdest of things, like the destruction of a city was probably the minimal amount of damage that was to be expected in a fight like that.
right.
Um, and All Might has said that he hasn't saved everybody, but the fact that he can say that he's been successful and he's been the guy, the go-to, is kind of a. And I guess another thing too is like All Might could have probably helped out too, because I think All Might said he was not part of an agency, or if he had one, he wasn't recruiting anybody. I forgot what the details on what was that, but I want to say he might have been a free agent. It's possible.
Hmm.
Because nobody, I mean, when the series started, nobody knew anything about him, and nobody still knows anything about him. The only reason we know as much as we do because we're the audience, and they kind of have to tell us things. But All Might pretty much retired with nobody knowing, and like the closest thing now is people are comparing Midoriya to him, saying that their powers are very similar. Low do they know that Midoriya has the exact same powers as he does, but now Midoriya has evolved them and got new sets of powers now to make his powers seem different. But it's one of those weird things. It's like I don't know. It's like it kind of like could we have stopped all this? Could we have stopped the issues that we're having right now? Like if maybe people had just been a little bit more proactive, because Endeavor's the only one who was trying to get up to his level or surpass him, but he realized that the gap was too dang wide. There was no way for him to shrink that gap. Trying to just scroll into the episode right now because we talked about the training situation. I guess we talk about what Endeavor has, like the advice that he's given Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki. Pretty much he's telling Bakugo well, specifically Bakugo, because Bakugo was saying that because it's cold it takes him a while to warm up, but he brings up that, like, are you gonna really use that excuse when you're a pro hero and you couldn't get to the scene fast enough? Essentially, he brought up the fact that, like, this isn't a class, this isn't school, this is real life, and like someone could die, and shows that he's up to the task by stopping a bus head on, which was, I guess, I mean, like a better term, really cool looking, because I didn't expect that next scene to be him stopping a bus.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, like as the Jock has said, we've seen that Endeavor's up to the task. He's more than ready for this. He may not be All Might, but he's definitely somebody else. And that was kind of like what All Might was trying to tell Endeavor, is that you can't be me. You got to be somebody else. You got to be you. And he's taking that advice from All Might pretty well, to the point where he's really trying to, regardless of what people think of him, he's trying his best to keep the city safe. He's thought about everything pretty well, apparently. I guess the other thing is, I guess All Might would have been a little bit overkill. It's kind of like All Might was like Superman, but Superman didn't do everything by himself. He was really only ever called in for the big people. So I don't know how he would compare Superman to All Might. But then again, they don't suffer that same problem that this world does, though.
The line about Superman, I remember this quoted in Death Battle when they did Goku versus Superman, the second one.
Oh dear.
Was no, they were quoting like.
No, I'm just preparing for all the dislikes that's probably gonna happen from this one comment. But go on.
Somebody asked one of the creators of Superman how powerful Superman was, and the answer was as strong as he needed to be. And that's how they answered, like, how his Superman's power seems to change kind of drastically between series and things like that, because they said his power is as strong as it needs to be. So in that way, he's like All Might. All Might was as strong as he needed to be. Like, all of a sudden, like, United States smash times 1,000,000, and he just make up some, I thought the highest percent, and like he would just do things like that anytime he needed to, not anytime he wanted to, but he was as strong as he needed to be. And I think that's the case here, that like that's how he's Superman in this universe. Not he can't fly or have heat vision or anything like that, but because he's a symbol, he's larger than everybody else around him in his power level, and he's as strong as he. It changes from episode to kind of like when they first meet him, like he's pretty weak in episode 1. He's like, he can't take on the slime monster really until he gets inspiration from Deku. He's been in his power for a couple hours and he like can't hold it anymore. And then in his final fight, he's like way more powerful than we see him in episode 1, despite having given away his quirk. So I think that's what we're thinking of here, is that like he's as strong as he needs to be, and his power wasn't 100% consistent through every episode, but it was what they needed at the time.
I guess I can go with it. I had a thought and I lost it now, and I really don't know where I was going with that.
That happens to you a lot, I bet.
Yeah, more often than you think.
Something kind of burbles up in the pea soup that's your brain, and then if the bubble pops, then you've lost it.
I guess what I want to say is, like, I guess the cap off the episode. he tells them that they need to be able to. The goal for them during this internship is to get to and capture a villain before he does, which is shown that it's very difficult. Because Endeavor seems to be always 100 like 5 steps ahead of them whenever it comes to um getting to a bad guy. So like Bakugo's got to learn how to he's got to be able to push out 100% of his explosion power at the very beginning when he's traveling, so he can be quick. Because Endeavor does say that he is very fast, but he's not fast enough. Is the best way to put it. You know, he in Bakugo used the excuse that the lame excuse that he actually says back in the previous arc that it takes him a while to get warmed up, and it's like that's kind of a lame excuse for a hero who needs to be able to protect people, and he wants to be number one. So this is got to be something he's got to work on, is being able to be at 100% all the time. And it's kind of the same thing with like Todoroki, but I will say, and this is a complaint that you had with Todoroki last arc, Jock, and Endeavor kind of quantifies it here by saying that you have the ability to manipulate your ice to a certain extent, use that for your fire. I didn't realize that apparently he must have had cryokinesis, which brings your argument back up that he should have been using his ice a little bit better than he was.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that he had kinesis. I wasn't aware of that because it didn't seem like it anytime he used his ability. So I'm like, so I will have to admit that I was wrong that he should have been manipulating his ice because he made an ice slide. I forgot all about that. I don't know why I forgot about that because that wasn't filler. That was canon. So I don't know why I forgot about that. So I was 100% not aware that he supposed to have kinesis and he probably has a very limited amount of kinesis, but he should be able to manipulate his ice. So Endeavor kind of brings up the point where he needs to be able to get better at that. He needs to be able to be precise with his abilities. So that's what he's got to work on. So we'll hopefully see a little bit more of that precision later on. Now that hopefully Torok has gotten past his stupid, well not stupid, but his issues, his like he can still hate his father. But he shouldn't let that hinder him. Like he shouldn't let that hinder him at all. And then Deku, he says pretty much, learn to use the air force without thinking. And I'm guessing, which is going to lead to him being able to use the Black Glove because he does confirm that he uses Black Glove like he uses Air Force. So if he's able to, utilize Air Force without thinking, he'll be able to use Black Glove without thinking. That's what I got from that statement.
To some extent, but I think he has two problems with Black Whip right now, and he has one with Air Force. So I think the idea was like, let's get you down with Air Force, and then we'll focus on the other one. Every single one of them had homework. Bakugo and Shoto are working on Flash Fire. Shoto's working on shaping fire like he does with his ice. Deku's working on improving Air Force, and then they're all working on parallel processing. But he mentioned that parallel processing is kind of something you learn in the process. And then their big overarching macro things that they're learning on is rescue, evacuation, and fighting. It's interesting that a hero like Endeavor put those in that order. You know what I mean? Rescue, evacuation, fight. Like he listed fight last when you think of Endeavor as more of a fighty kind of hero. But when I think about it, didn't Endeavor wasn't he functional in rescuing and evacuating for All Might at the beginning of that fight when he was fighting
I mean, yeah, what he stated is that every hero does rescue, evacuation, and fighting. But I mean, every hero is able to do it, but only certain heroes prioritize fighting or evacuating or something like that. There are heroes that are specialized in evacuating, and there are heroes that are specialized in fighting. But his agency specifically does all of them because I guess he wants to be well-rounded, and it never looked like he couldn't rescue anybody because he has hands. His ability with his fire is very fine-tuned. That he's able to encapsulate somebody without burning them, which shows how much control he has over his ability to use his hell flames. Um, he's also been I guess I never thought about it because like Bakugo said something kind of interesting that I never picked up on. But like because when he was like flying forward with his flash fire, he was propelling himself like Bakugo does when he's like exploding on his hands. And Baku says like he's copying my explosion technique, but you just realized that now. I was like, I guess I never realized that, but when I never saw Endeavor floating like that until after the fight until after the tournament. So I'm guessing maybe Endeavor didn't do that. I'm gonna go on a limb that Endeavor was able to do that from the very beginning. He just never showed it. Because he didn't seem to make a big deal out of it when like Hawk said that. Wait a minute, you're flying? I'm just not falling. Like it was like okay, it's like I always said it as like he could always do that. He just didn't because he never fought people in the air. Um, so it's kind of interesting that like they bring that up, but yeah, I don't think. I mean, he probably does a lot of. He probably does a lot of fighting because he's a number 2 hero. It's probably his main bread and butter. But I'm pretty sure that because he started out at the very bottom, so he had to done rescuing and evacuating at first. So I'm pretty sure he's well equipped to do everything. Which is why he's always out there patrolling while his agency is back there taking the phone calls and making sure that everybody gets their that everybody has at least a one person or one activity to do to help keep the city safe. Because they stated that they have 100 requests every day, which is ridiculous considering that I think before in like Endeavor they listed his accomplishments and he had a lot of rescues on his hand. So
I
like
mean,
he's
you've also seen him not below like some small time work, like stopping a hit and run and stuff.
so I
So
mean like to me it wouldn't is that isn't too much of a shock. I'm not saying you're shocked or confused by it. Like, I understand that like it's
I'm just
not
waiting for
that.
Endeavor to do like a wellness check or something.
I mean if he did it'd be funny.
Yes. One of your friends called and said they were concerned. Blazing eyes.
Actually,
Would you
I just
like
thought
to
about
sit down and talk about it with me?
I
I
just thought about
understand.
something.
Yes.
You mentioned that we hadn't seen Endeavor's like I guess like limit. But we have seen him use blue fire, and he's never used it since. And I said that we've seen his limit during that high end fight. I'm starting to wonder if that was his limit or if the blue fire is his limit. There's actually been some inconsistencies with his abilities too. He did it one time, but I mean it's showing that he can do blue fire. They showed it once, and it was only I think it was during that one moment that he lit on fire. Which, by the way, I really feel they need to start. If they really want to use Nomus, they're gonna have to make these things fire retardant. I'm sorry. There's no way. Like, there was a problem, and it's so funny they have not addressed it either. None of the villains have ever addressed Endeavor being a problem. So maybe they got something up their hand that we don't know about yet, which means maybe there's a fire retardant Nova coming up. If it is, he's in trouble. But
I told you, like, the way the plot is built right now, they're building up to Nomus. Fire and All Might's power are the two most useful things against Nomus. So I really think they're building up to
can you
Nomus right now.
explain the book then? Can you explain the book?
Can I explain it? We already tried to explain the book. I'm saying that it's useful to have a book. You attract. First of all, you turn the general public away from the hero group, which reduces their support in general. You bring in a large pool of people, which is a resource, and some of them can be used to steal their quirk and give it to a Nomu. Some of them can become Nomu. Some of them can be cherry picked to be full members. And you encourage more people, and you can also amplify their powers, as we've seen, like that guy that went rogue that day, and they had to take care of him in that crowd. And then you can also use it because they were experimenting with it then, and I'm sure they've made some progress, even though they were disrupted by Lemillion. And then on top of all those things, you just encourage more villains in general just to come out of the woodworks on their own, as you erode the glow that was created by All Might around heroes in general. And then that just causes problems for the Discord, gives the heroes more that they have to do instead of trying to find them and stop them, and it weakens them for when the actual full-on revolution happens. It's good for more than one reason, but I think one of the things that's going to come up right now is Nomus, because they need people that will just straight up listen. And as you've seen in the villain community, there's a lot of backstabbing, a lot of people going rogue, a lot of people with their own agendas, and people that will turn on you at the last minute. So they need some mindless troops, like a core that they can count on. And the only way to do that when it comes to villains seems to be when they're not able to think for themselves, or when they have fanatical like worship, and this is a way to create both of those. Because you had Stain, who had fanatical followers, and then you have Nomus that can only do what you tell them to.
Hello?
I'm done. You don't like say over and out.
I was like, you stopped talking for a minute, and I was just confused. You stopped. It's like you stopped in the middle of a thought, but okay. I just don't think there's enough no moves for a hundred thousand whatever plus revolution. I know there's probably a lot of them. I was like it doesn't seem like anybody can just become a Nomu. I think they had several instances where putting a quirk in somebody failed.
Yeah, I'm sure that they've had failures too, but in many cases the failures just mean a weaker Nomu and not like a complete disaster. But what do they really have to lose with a failure when large expendable resource on their hands created by the book?
But from what he's talking, the 100,000 is going to be Nomus. Like that. I don't think they had that many Nomus in stock.
They don't have that many anything in stock, dude. Unless they're building robots, they're not going to be able to do this.
I mean, we'll see. I prefer humans. I prefer humans who have the ability to think versus like mindless, super strong zombies. But
Yeah, you're not talking about villains. Villains are hardly like the place you go for a loyal army. Fanatics, maybe, not villains.
I get that, but you want to start a revolution, you're gonna want people who have the ability to think, not
They
something
don't.
that you just tell
This
to go
isn't
punch a wall. That's
this
just the way
isn't a
I'm thinking about it.
binary. This isn't a binary decision, though. You can have thinking people, and you can even have like thinking people that are in charge of a bunch of nomus. You know what I mean? But I think the grunt soldiers as nomus, and then having like general level people or like commander level people that are like extremely good is just a not an ineffective way to handle this. Like if you have smart people leading the nomus, maybe enough of them to control like I don't know 80,000 nomus or something like that, and the other 12 20,000 are smart, talented, intelligent, cherry picked people, and then you have like a general dissent among the people caused by the book and just as a overall thing, then I think you've got some pretty solid stuff going on there. You don't have to hit them in just one way.
I guess I think I'm just more hung up. I'd rather just see an entire revolution happen with people in the city. I think that's what I want. And if I don't get it, I'm not gonna complain. I'm just saying I think that's like what I want.
How
I
are
just
you
want to
gonna
see. I just want
from
to
a
see the
plot
world just
line
have an uprising.
from a plot line perspective? How do we go from where we are right now to people uprising against the hero core?
I mean, causing more it's like deceit and destruction amongst the cities. But I mean, I feel the book was already kind of sowing enough deceit as it is. I mean, there are people. They've already said there are people out there in the background that don't like heroes to begin with, as it is, and they just given the heroes failing, just giving them more. There's just giving them more fuel
But
to the fire.
doesn't it sound like this whole thing is kind of a surprise anyway, given that it's 4 months out and the heroes didn't necessarily know about it, including someone high up like Endeavor? It sounds like they've got a surprise in plan. It doesn't sound like they've got some long term strategy to like pull people out.
I guess I just like so if I think I just want an uprising of normal people. I think that's like what I want, but I'm pretty sure not gonna get it. Like
Mm.
that's like too much animation on their hands to have to animate every single person going over a going over a fence and banging on a wall. But I think it's like what I want to see. 'Cause I just think that'd be funny to see. But I don't know. Like I mean, whatever we get, we get. If it is a bunch of nomus like wreaking havoc on people and not everybody, and there's gonna be a lot of death and destruction. Okay, that's all the nomus were good for to begin with. Anyway, the only nomu that shown any sort of thought was like the nomu that they kept hidden and released just to fight Endeavor.
Right.
We saw how that turned out, so I don't even know. That Nomu, even though it was a success in doing what it needed to do, that Nomu was flawed because all it cared about was fighting. I don't know what they were trying to do with that Nomu, but I don't think, based on the way Dabi reacted, it was the intent for it to get killed by Endeavor. So, so it was one of those things like that Nomu, even though he could think was a failure, which is like why I'm so hung up on the whole idea of a Nomu thinking. But you could be right. Maybe they're gonna pair 3 Nomus up with maybe 2 people and let's send them out to do their dirty work. I just don't know if that would work, considering that, as again, Nomus are thoughtless zombies, and I don't know how they get ones to listen to you. It doesn't seem like you can just walk up to a Nomu and tell it to do something. So I don't know. They never explained. They never explained how even that first Nomu that All Might knocked into the sky. They never explained what happened to it because he said that it just didn't do anything after it got far away.
It went out of the range where it was being controlled, so it sounds like there's some sort of proximity control going on, but I don't know who's in charge of that or how it works.
Again, we don't know what you're using and controlling, so at this point, there's some not obligatory. There's some invisible mechanism that we don't know about, and we've seen it used in season 1, and we haven't seen it used since. Well, actually, we haven't seen it used since season 2 when they tried to kidnap Bakugo. But even then, that Nomu that seemed to be controlled stopped attacking and walked off. So I don't know what happened there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Like, from the way they talk about these Nomus, these things are dangerous, mindless zombies. I don't know how you control something that doesn't have a mind, unless they're using mindless in a ironic sense that it has a mind. It just doesn't have any control over its actions.
I think that's where they were going with it. When it's not told to do anything, it just stops because it can only do things it's told to do.
I guess the hypotheticals before we end this thing off, I did view the end sequence after the end trailer with we saw Hawks' childhood, and yes, this episode they're coming back and continuing a very early and old side plot with Froppy. Um, I have I have ironically and unironically expressed that I'm disappointed that they haven't done much with Asui since then. I'm happy that at least she's getting some chance to do something. And based on what it looks like, Uraka, her, and some other people are going to be involved in whatever's happening in the side plot here. Based on what it looks like, they're going to be called to help out with something. So it seems like they're not going to be too far off from helping Deku, Shoto, and Bakugo.
Right.
Again, like they did last time when they were fighting Chisaki. Yeah, wait.
I'm looking forward
There's
to it.
somebody there that I don't recognize, and she's behind Asui. I think that's a she. Looks like a she. And this other girl behind the girl with Spin Girl. I don't recognize these two. Maybe they're new. Because I don't recognize them.
I had one other thing to ask about. I know we're kind of on the preview for the next episode now. I was thinking about how the episodes of My Hero go, and this applies to other series sometimes too, but it seems like it especially applies to a series like My Hero Academia. I would say that I categorize the episodes of My Hero in about 5 different piles, and then honorable mention would be Slice of Life. But I would say that the episodes that we see are either focused around action, world building, character development, recap, or aftermath. Like where they sum up a series after a major event or something like that, like usually the episode or two after like the climax of the series. Which an aftermath I'm not even sure on because it could just be put into like world building or character development, but it seems like it has its flavor. What do you think of that as like a categorization for most episodes?
That's fine.
Because I would call this a world building episode. I think that everything that happened here, there was stuff, characters happened, but I think a lot of this was world building. They were setting up a future storyline. They were setting up like Endeavor's new role with them and like what they're going to be doing in the future. This was a setup episode for things that were coming up, and it did a lot of world building, in my opinion. kind of telling you about what the future episodes were going to be about more than like being an episode in and of itself.
I agree with that. Hey, Chuck, I wanna as you were talking, because I just kind of stopped on Asui, which is ironic, but whatever. But in the image in the preview, oh, that's strange. You see those, like, I guess in the preview, you see those things beside her neck? Were those always there as part of her costume? Because if they are, I'm just not noticing it for the first time.
Are you talking about Froppy and I'm not? Is that what's going on here?
Yes, yes.
Good Lord. Okay, let me.
I mean, you would know more about this than I would, because even though you joke about it, you're very meticulous about certain the details about characters.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Funimation has a terrible UX, and I'm trying to like. One of the things it does is like if you tell it to play the episode, it almost always interprets that as double click. So it can be very hard to like get to what you want to get to, because like once you pause, like unpausing very often ends up like repausing it. It's one of the worst like built user experience websites I've ever seen. Okay, so Uraraka has new equipment very clearly.
She does? Wait, what?
Uraraka has those weird like bars on all her stuff around her head and around her hands.
Huh.
And then
I guess I've seen that so much I've forgotten. I guess I didn't know that wasn't that a part of her costume. Okay.
And her costume is a little bit sexier too. Like you can see her shoulders and stuff like that. She's showing a little back. I don't remember those goggles on Froppy's outfit, but I can't be sure that I've never seen them before. I also didn't notice.
No, those are. Well, actually, no, that's a new image. Never mind. Sorry.
I'm at 2334 when I'm talking.
I'm at 2339, but it's the same image, but I'm comparing this figure that they have a Froppy to her, and those things beside her neck are not on this image, and those goggles look different. It looks more frog-like.
Let me see now, because I've backed up a little bit now. I'm trying to get back to like some of these different images.
So I'm just trying to. I feel like
the preview starts at 23:27, but yeah, Uraraka looks a little different. Froppy. Oh, you mean those like ball things around her face? Yeah, I've definitely like the almost look like Pokeballs in the first image, yellow and green. I've never seen those before.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was going crazy or not.
Because I don't know. It seems obvious that she'd have webbed feet flippers, but I've also never seen those.
No, she's had those. I don't. The thing is, her costume's kind of it hasn't been inconsistent. I think it's because we like there's been like I said before, like they've been very weird with her and her drawing, because during the tournament, when I tournament, during like the exam thing, they were they were drawing, like people were commenting on the fact that like Asui had hams. This was a thing that was happening, Jocks. Just let you know. People were saying that for the reason Asui was looking really attractive for. I've been noticing as the series has been going on that Asui they've been doing things to catch people's attention with her. I'm guessing is what they've been doing on purpose. I mean, granted, she's maybe a frog, but just as very human looking anyway, so I guess that makes sense. I guess this universe's Catgirl, but so with frog legs, but those like flippers have been there. Now they could be different looking altogether too. She may have changed. If she added on those things to her face, then she more than likely changed her feet.
I wonder if those things on her face were made for some sort of communication or something. Because why would they be there otherwise?
Well, I guess it would make sense because Selkie, not Selkie, but his sidekick, I forgot her name. Her ability deals with communication underwater. I remember Uraraka. I mean, not Uraraka. I remember Froppy not being able to do that before. So if they are meant for communication, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, especially I think after like I mean, it wasn't specifically stated, but I think maybe Froppy is aiming to be like an underwater rescue hero. Considering that it seemed like to me, if I may be remembering this wrong, but I think she was inspired when she was doing her internship before. Like she was heavily inspired at that point. Unfortunately, they didn't do anything with it, which was upsetting me because like they did this episode with her made her the focal point, and then they do nothing with it. Now we're gonna have another episode where she's a focal point, and we're not gonna hear from it again for like another season or two. I mean, at least this time Little Rock is a part of it, so at least I'll have something else to really be rooting for in this episode. So I mean, hey, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's about it. This episode's gonna be that. It's called Long Time No See, Selkie. So we get to go back to this again, and
I get the pun. Long time no see.
I think with that, I think he gave me just I guess the reason to cut the stream.
Long time no see, like splashing in the water.
You know, that's actually kind of clever. And that's it. I'm calling it there. See you guys next week.
Oh my god.
Okay, then that's it.